What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich. Thank you to all of those who have traveled from a galaxy far, far away to join us today. It's time to talk Skeleton Crew. I've been excited about this one for a long time just because I kind of avoided the trailers. I knew absolutely nothing about it going in other than it's Jude Law and a bunch of kiddos. And so I've been excited to dive into a new corner of the Star Wars universe, and helping me with that is my co-host, looking like he's a little chilly with the beanie inside the house, Damon Gray. How you doing, Damon?
It is cold. It is winter. It is a nice Arctic breeze and active blast flying over all of us, but I am delighted that this show is here to warm all of our hearts and souls and make me smile. And did it do that? I guess we'll find out.
And joining us as well, not even a guest at this point, not a special guest, but a special honorary co-host, because she's here all the damn time to keep me in check, make fun of me, keep me on my toes. Rachel Leishman, how you doing, Rachel?
I'm doing great. Just peachy. Cold, but peachy.
What kind of temperature is we looking at where you two are? Because I feel like
more north, so he's probably a little colder than I am, but it was feels like 21 yesterday. Today I'm at a cool, currently says 30. What does it feel like? 27.
I'm around that ballpark. Nothing too far off.
So yeah, we're actually in very similar boats right now, because last week even a few days ago, I was looking at like minus 20 where we were, but now a balmy 17 degrees here in Saskatoon. So
is it degrees there?
Yeah, it's like we do Celsius, but I just switched it to Fahrenheit for the purposes of my friends.
For us
Americans over here.
It was all
but similar cold for everyone, but I agree, Damon. This is a show to warm up our hearts. But before we get there, I do have a couple other things I want to go through. We won't do a full-on what you watching because we want to talk Skeleton Crew. That's what the people are here for. But I did get to see all of Creature Commandos, and the embargo lifted today. And so I've been very excited to talk about that for a while. You can find my review up on agentsoffandom.com. Spoiler free, so don't worry about any spoilers, but I reviewed all 7 episodes, and you can find my spoiler free review up on agentsfandom.com. I liked it a lot. I kind of described it as a tasty appetizer before the main course that is going to be Superman when it launches out the DCU next year. And this kind of didn't make me feel like, oh my gosh, the new DCU, yes, it's amazing. But I went, ooh, this is fun. I'm entertained. And it got me more excited of what's to come. It was funny. It was weirdly steamy. But it was a good time. It was classic James Gunn humor, classic James Gunn found family vibes. Very similar vibes to Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. But overall, a lot of fun. Rachel, you've seen at least part of it as well. What did you thought of the Creature Commandos?
I liked it a lot. I like the different dynamics that they're doing with it. I don't want to spoil said dynamics, but they have some really fun pairings that I think is really interesting. I love Weasel. I just love Weasel. That's a character that murdered 8 children, maybe. I don't remember, but he's great. No notes on Weasel as a character. But yeah, I like it. I think it's a fun vibe. I like how it feels in line with Harley Quinn, but also like it has characters we know are in the live action played by the same actors. I think it's really cool. And yeah.
I agree. Harley Quinn vibes big time with it. And I think my favorite character was G.I. Robot. I thought he was just absolutely hilarious. Made me laugh out loud every time he opened his mouth. Damon.
Sean Gunn.
Damon, you can find our interview with our own Ryan Cortero, his interview with Sean Gunn up on the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. So when you're checking that out, You're making sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on all the great content we have coming, because we have a lot of really awesome shows. So, well, I'm going to pull up our schedule for December while everybody who's watching smashes the like button. And and then when by the time you put down that, I'm going to have it up. And this is really professional and well planned. And here we go. So we got Skeleton Crew, we got Creature Commandos, and then at the end of December, we have What If that we're going to be chatting about. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these live shows, because we're going to be going all month long, multiple times a week. And in addition to all of this, we got the Comic Corner podcast as well. And so, Damon, since you have not seen Skeleton Crew yet, I want to give you a chance to talk about the exciting episode of Comic Corner we got coming this week.
Yeah, we have our usual episode that comes up on Thursdays where we talk about all our favorite books, including one book from a very known brother of a band who is the bassist of a band. Mikey White has a comic book coming out this week, so that's very cool. It's called Christmas 365. It's about a dad who just wants to have the best Christmas ever. Does it go that way? Probably not. So go check that out. Go to your local comic shop. Go to Amazon, wherever you go to pick up your comics. But we also have an interview dropping on Wednesday with a certain member of Phase Hero. So keep an eye out for that.
It's going to be a fun episode of the Comic Corner. So if you're a fan of Phase Hero, make sure you come back, check it out. But let's talk about the Skeleton Crew, because this is what we're here to talk about. We got a big 2-episode premiere on Disney Plus, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Rachel, I'll throw it to you first. Just kind of initial spoiler-free thoughts. What did you think about the first 2 episodes?
It's the Goonies. I loved it so much because it's straight up just the Goonies, but like, what if they were in Star Wars? It made me be like, what if I really want kids like now? Because all these kids were just on an adventure. I want to go on the adventure with them. I'll take them on the adventure myself.
Take out Jude Law, insert Rachel Leishman.
I just really love, I like seeing Star Wars from a different perspective. It's why Andor works so well. It's why, like, The Acolyte is a completely different timeline. So it's a different perspective, but it's a different timeline in Star Wars. This is a different perspective in a timeline we've already been in. And I think that's so smart and so fun, because while shows like Andor are very important, we don't really have lighthearted Star Wars. And I really like that this has like moments where it's just a bunch of kids being like enamored with the Jedi, because that's how kids are when it comes to Star Wars. And I think that's really cute and sweet.
That's like literally my biggest takeaway is this was created and developed by, and the first episode was directed by John Watts. Mm-hmm. And he pitched this to Star Wars, Lucasfilm, a long time ago, originally as a movie, and they decided to put it on Disney Plus. And from his Spider-Man movies to this, it just consistently shows me how good he is at acting with young talent, whether it be kids, whether it be teens. That was one of the best parts of the Spider-Man movies, was the chemistry between Tom Holland and Zendaya and Jacob Batalon. And they continue that right into this show with the chemistry between the kids. It doesn't seem like they're reading lines. It just seems like they're kiddos hanging out. And I thought that was really awesome. Damon, what did you think about the first 2 episodes?
This was a cute, fun time. And I think we're all just going to be like agreeing on that aspect, because at the very least in the first episode, I really enjoyed the fact that, like Rachel said, it's a different perspective. I mean, we really have never truly seen what if Star Wars, but suburbia. Ooh, that's different. That's new. What is this suburbia Star Wars life like? And, the droids and all the daily life in the school, but you yearn for something more. You yearn for the stars of that is Star Wars. So I think from that perspective, it is great. And yeah, it is like Goonies vibes, but also like some Pirates of the Caribbean vibes as well, especially in that second episode. And I thought that was the music. I mean, for the Disney adults out there, like the really diehard ones, there's even like the whistle, like the whistle, that like if you're really deep in the weeds like I am, you caught immediately, and it's like, oh yeah, this is we're in on the vibes here. I really enjoyed it. Like I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed the second episode a little bit more than the first because the first one was like, we're setting things up, we're learning the world, we're getting the vibes of everyone. You get to, play in the sandbox a little bit before you really go full speed ahead. And I liked it. Had fun with it.
I did too. And we'll go spoiler warning now, fully dive in. So spoiler warning for episodes 1 and 2 of Skeleton Crew. If you have not seen it yet, come back, join us when you have. Since we're talking about the, Disney adults and the pirate aspects of this show, I want to do a character breakdown of the main characters, but we got to wait till episode 2 to get this one. And Damon, this is something you texted me as soon as you saw his name. It took me a while to put the pieces together, and I think if you don't watch even with subtitles on, it's tougher to realize if you're not like visually seeing the name. But SM33, an interesting little pirate collaboration there. It's me, of course, Captain Hook's first mate. A great name for a pirate droid. What did you think about his character, SM33?
Look, I've learned that I am a sucker for droids. As much as I don't want to be, I am. I really am. And I just love that you can just kind of have a droid fit whatever mold you want a droid to fit in. And this one, he comes off like rugged and mean. He's like, I'm gonna, rip your throats out type of thing. It's like, whoa, we're getting a little dark to start this episode, but it's a fun vibe. I like with the relationship he starts to get with the kids, especially Fern and the captain, little assistant co-captain, whatever you want to call him, dynamic. It's just great. I love it. It's so fun.
Rachel,
I love Smee because it's Nick Frost. So having the time of my life because I love Nick Frost. I love that him and Simon Pegg are in Star Wars. They are nowhere near each other in the Star Wars franchise, but I just love that technically the two boys from the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy are in Star Wars. And yeah, I love that his name is Smee. It makes me really happy. I, unlike Damon, am not a droid person for the most part, with the exception of K2SO and L3, and now Smee and IG-11. I tend to not mainly. I just hate C-3PO. Like if I could,
That's the only one I don't like either. But everyone else, right?
Like yeah, it is really just C-3PO. So like maybe I am a droid person minus that gold bitch. I truly and honestly, if I could kill any Star Wars character, I would let the rebels do the heavy lifting and I would just take out C-3PO. I cannot stand him. He drives me crazy.
Galaxy be damned. Long live Emperor Palpatine. I'm taking out C-3PO.
You listen, C-3PO probably aided the rise of Palpatine if you really break it down. So I'm helping out the galaxy. He's a cockblock and other things. Just taking him out. But I love Smee very much. I'm only calling him Smee. I understand that his name is SM33. He is Smee. I will not refer to him as anything other than that.
When he came in, when they were on the planet and the kids are just like backs against the wall surrounded by pirates, that's one of my favorite types of TV tropes where somebody comes in that you don't expect to be very combat ready. And I'm gonna just ignore the funny comments in the chat and just keep going. It's one of my favorite tropes, when you have somebody just pop in like that and you're like, oh, what are they gonna do? And then they just beat everybody's ass. It's kind of like Boomy in Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang's like, I choose to fight you, and he's like, oh, you do, and he rips off his royal garb and he's just like this super jacked old man. That's kind of what I felt like with Smee there. But the captain of the team, Fern, she reminds me, and I know this is like, I don't know if this is a hot take, and it's comparing her to a pretty all-time Star Wars character, I assume one of Rachel's all-time favorite Star Wars characters. She reminds me of a young Han Solo.
She does.
Rachel, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think about Fern?
I love Fern. I love that these kids, like, I like that the kids have very much like kid energy in the sense where she's like, here go the boys, because it's not in the like scoffing at boys in a way where it should, like, if people on the internet get mad about that, I'm like, you've never been around a small girl before, because that is how we are. Anytime boys do something when you're that age, you're like, there go the boys. Like, what dumb thing are they gonna do? And I like that she has that energy, and it's not mean to women, Neel, but it is very much like, I'm smarter than you and I recognize that I'm smarter than you and I'm just going to let you do the dumb thing you want to do. And I think that's really fun. And I do love that she is like, thinks she's too cool, and then the minute she gets to be a pirate captain, she becomes like a giddy kid about it and is like taking it way too seriously, because I also think that's really relatable.
I just am so impressed, having recently been in a classroom teaching that age group, grade 5s, grade 6s, grade 7s. It's just uncanny to me how much they nail it. How that's like, these are actually just kids acting together, when it's the scene where they're trying to trick each other into who gets to go into the like the portal hole thing, not portal, but you know what I mean. Can't think of the word. The door, but like the manhole looking door. Like the way they're arguing about that and both feel like they outsmarted each other. It's just perfect. It's perfect. Damon, what do you think about Fern's character?
Fern's maybe one of my favorites of the four, and I do like that all four of them. You know, it's a little bit tropey. You have four characters who have fairly distinctive personalities, four different interests, completely different from each other. But you could almost break it down to like, there's two characters of the four that want to be there, and there's two characters that absolutely just want to get the heck home. And she's one of them who like tries to play off as like, I want to get home, but at the same time, she's like, nah, I'm digging this. Like, I get to be a pirate captain right now, and that's cool. And there's just a vibe to that, and I love that vibe.
Switching even Star verses and going from Star Wars to Star Trek, I feel like Fern gives Captain Kirk vibes, where Fern is very like slick talker, always ready for whatever challenge comes her way type of thing. And then Wim, on the other hand, I view him as like a leader type character as well, but more so like another character. Oh my gosh, why am I'm these live shows late at night give me so many brain farts. The super famous actor who's amazing that plays Captain Kirk.
William Shatner?
Not William Shatner, the new one, the movie.
Oh, Chris Pine. Or Paul
Chris
Wesley.
Pine, thank you. Chris Pine, thank you. My brain just went complete mush for a second. Another Chris Pine character is who Wim reminds me of, and that's his Dungeons and Dragons character, where it's like not fully always having an idea, but he's very idealistic and also a smooth talker in a way at times, but very much in his own head. Damon, what are your thoughts on Wim and his dynamic with Fern?
I need Wim to stop pressing buttons.
Never.
I get it. That's kind of his thing. He's just, you know, accidentally, intentionally getting himself into trouble. But it's so true, where like how you both said that they nailed like the childhood dynamic of all, where it's like he pressed the button and then immediately everyone's like, what's going on? He's like, I didn't do nothing. Right? Like, we've all kind of done that to an extent, but there was just something really just like, you little rascal about that one.
Just reminds
just
like
love
the kid
that.
is just looking at the fire alarm and it says don't pull or pull in case of emergency, and he's like,
Yeah, do it.
And then just eventually gets it.
I just love that you need to have a dreamer in the group. You know, you need to have someone that has bigger aspirations, who just, you know, you may accidentally put yourself in a scenario you don't want to be in. And I love that about Wim.
Rachel?
I know I said Goonies as soon as I started, and Goonies was also like how they were marketing the show, but he is the most like Mikey in the sense that it's like, yeah, he probably shouldn't be the one leading the charge, because like he maybe is just too involved in like the, oh, I want to go on this adventure and do this thing, and is making decisions based on that and not like the reality of a situation. But he is like, has that wonder and that excitement that Mikey had in Goonies that made like finding One-Eyed Willie's treasure so cool. And that is why like him getting to go into the ship and have that like well, I thought it was a Jedi temple, but it's a ship, and now we're on this adventure. So sweet, because it is like,
Why would you want to go home? We could go anywhere.
yeah, but it's just like, it's genuinely just a kid who is just so excited to do this. And so he reminds me a lot of like why I like Mikey as a character in the Goonies. And I will say, earlier we talked about how like the second episode is more the adventure and the first episode setting it up. But I like the first one, not more, but I like the first one a lot because it reminds me of my favorite part of the Goonies, which is like the before, when you're meeting all these friends and you see like all of their personalities come out and how they're all so different. And that's like, I really like that this show is doing that, but giving that kind of genre and those characters to Star Wars fans and or kids getting into Star Wars. And I think Wim is like a really good character for new fans to get involved with, or just like fans who maybe forgot what Star Wars is supposed to be about, to like remind them what it's like to love Star Wars when you're that age.
I think that's really well said, and I think this is a show that's. For one, I'm glad they did the 2-episode premiere because we get pieces of both of those. We get the full character introductions, and then we get the. We'll talk more about the cliffhanger at the end of 2, but we get more of the action and the cliffhanger in 2 that'll kind of hook viewers for longer term. And I think this is something that is going to be really great to introduce new viewers to Star Wars, and just like brand new kids that have never watched a Star Wars movie, and maybe they don't want to watch a movie from 40 years before they were born, 45 years before they were born. And so that's crazy to say. I don't even remember how old exactly the old first Star Wars is, but like that feels weird. It is true. It'll give them a brand new outlet to get into the universe, and maybe they go from there and want to explore it further. But let's go to KB, because she is somebody I want to see more of. She basically just reminds me of Tech from Bad Batch, but I feel like we're gonna get some type of arc later on where the boys are gonna be like, "Oh, why is Fern the worst? She's just so mean all the time." And KB is gonna open up about their childhood together and how they've just had these great times, and how Fern has a heart of gold, and her and KB found each other. And I'm kind of expecting that type of episode at some point, that origin of their dynamic, because I feel like there's a lot to the kind of best friends, sister, always know what each other's thinking, always have each other's back, with clear leader and follower dynamic between Fern and KB that I'm interested in seeing more about. What did you think, Rachel?
I love this Georgie looking little girl. I love these glasses. I love that, like, the minute I saw when like they went up, and I was like, oh, so you don't even, it's not like Scott Summers, it's not like Georgie, but they just like went up, and I was like, oh, she's just like wearing them to look cool, and I think she does look cool in them, which is again such a kid thing, is to like have tech like that and wear it every single day, and you're like, you need to wear, like, what are you wearing that for? You can just like leave that off. And she's like, no, I'm gonna wear it every day. It's gonna be my personality.
I think one year in elementary school, I wore jerseys to school every single day. And that was just like my thing. I was just the guy who wore jerseys every day.
Yeah, that's this is KB's thing, is like the glasses. And you're like, at first I was like, oh, that's a cool Star Wars, like that's fun. And then they went up and I was like, oh, so you don't need them? You're just wearing them to look cool and like use the tech. Great, you guys need it in this moment. But yeah, I do think
I think John Watts is a fan of like high-tech glasses that people can put on and do crazy things with, because we see it in Far From Home, and with basically almost very similar glasses to what Rachel's wearing. That's what she has on right now, is actually Edith. That's what she's got. And this is KB's version of Edith. Damon, what did you think of her character?
I'm a sucker for characters who don't say too much, but when they do, it's either funny or useful. Like there's a spot when she's in the ship and they're like, where did KB go? She's like, oh, it goes down here. It's like it just completely pops out of just like this little manhole. Very cartoon. Like I got a good
going on her own solo missions that like it doesn't follow until she's already found the answer.
Exactly. I'm a big sucker for that, you know. It's giving me Ferb vibes, or you don't say too much, but when you do, it's a good bit. Something I remember.
And finally, the internet's favorite character since the first trailer of Skeleton Crew. What'd you think of Neel, Damon?
You know, every group needs a Chucky Finster. Every group needs one. The one where it's like, I don't know, guys. You know, you need it. You need it. And I understand why everyone is in love with Neel and wants to protect Neel and will do anything they can for Neel. I get it. But can we not move on from the little baby Neels that are like in the family too? Because the little baby ones are very cute.
My favorite Neel moment was like they get to that new planet. He's like, "Whoa, aliens! They look so weird." It's like, Neel, you're the only non-humanoid in your group. Rachel, what did you think of this character?
I would die for this fucking elephant boy. I know he looks like Mac Rebo, but that's like an elephant kid. I would die for this kid. Literally, this is the character that I like in Goonies. This is your Data. This is your oh my god, Chunk. This is your this is the character that I am like, what's his life? What's his deal? How do I protect him? I love Wim. I'm like, let's go on an adventure, dude, but I'm protecting Neel because he needs it. Wim and Fern and KB, they don't need protecting. They got it. They'll go do their thing. Someone needs to protect Neel because he might die. Like my favorite part. Oh wait, I can't. I think it's in episode 3, so I'm gonna be quiet. But there's a part later that is like, I was like, someone save this fucking child. He's gonna die. Someone has to protect this kid. But like, thank you, Carlos, in the comments. I love this kid so much because he's like, hey guys, what if we just did our homework? Like, has no sense of adventure, is like fully like, I want to go home and do my homework and maybe watch some TV before bed. And he has somehow found friends that are like, absolutely not. We're gonna commit a felony. He's just like, okay.
Well, actually, guys, I just gotta say, I love the fact that Neel's fully practical. I love it. Like, perfect.
Also, I will say, Leah, who you both have met, said, I need you to explain to me what you think the child who plays him looks like. And I described the exact child who is I was like, this kid looks like this. And that is exactly what that kid looks like. Because I was like, you can just tell the kind of kid who is playing Neel. And I was like, it's the kind of kid who I always want to see in a show. Because I'm like, that's going to be my guy.
That's going to be my guy.
And it is.
My favorite part about Neel is that, like, I'm with you 100%. He's always just like, can we just do our homework? And he's never down for any of these things. But he always adapts and he's like, all right, I guess it's happening. And he just like goes with the flow. He's like, Wim's gotten into enough shit over the years. And he's so down for his friend. Like, hey, I'll fail this test. You want me to fail this test? I'll fail it right with you. I'll miss out on Runa, my girl. You've never spoken to Runa.
Never spoken to her.
I will say my favorite thing.
I'm working on it.
My favorite thing that Neel does is when Fern rolls up and is like fucking with them.
Who do you have a crush on?
He's a crush on in school, and Wim is like, what? And this child just like without fail goes, Runa.
It's because he just doesn't question things. He's like, shit, this is happening. All right, well,
he's too pure.
Runa.
It's that. You didn't ask me how my test went. How to go? Oh, I did pretty good. It's just like.
All right, great. We gotta go. Oh, okay.
We have to protect him. It's like this pure innocent soul. Just I would die for. As I said, I would die for this fucking elephant boy.
Or when they were at the little pirate bar and like they're like putting the toppings on. He's like, oh no, I don't need any toppings.
He's like,
there's so many good little lines.
He's allergic to something and they put it on his thing. He's like, oh, okay. Just like accepts that they did it. And you're like, no.
I can't help but think as we transition to talking about Jude Law's character, Jod Na Nawood. That's a name. Jod Na Nawood. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful of Nawood, and it's not even a good first name either. But I'm gonna call him Jude Law probably most of the time. I'm Team Jude over Jod, but I can't help but think of how much even more fun this show would be if it were not Jude Law going with this little band of misfit children, and if it were Hondo. And like we'll get into the theory section later, Damon. You and I both I think Hondo's going to show up later in this show, but
I'll put a solid $10 bill on that one.
I can't help but think of how much fun this show would be if it was Hondo and this little group just like, oh yes, I get you home, but we got to do this job first, and just like go into these different things, and it'd be absolutely fantastic. But let's talk about Jude Law's character, and we might as well just go right into the cliffhanger at the end, because we saw him being like in pirate mode and getting mutinied upon at the beginning, very Jack Sparrow-esque. And then all we really know about him at this point is he's a former pirate, but he uses the Force or some magnets or something, but it looks a whole lot like the Force. Damon, like Rachel and I know a little bit more about this character because we've seen episode 3, but even then it's not like, I mean, I won't say anything, but it's like
I need someone to remind me how this ends before I just start talking about episode 3.
It ends with him using the Force to get the keys, and then it's like that's it. I
will talk about nothing past that. I almost already did, but I will talk about nothing past that.
So, but like even into 3, we still don't know a ton about this character yet, so it's gonna be fun learning about his backstory. But Damon, what do you think about the mysterious Jod Na Nawood?
Jude Law is a very interesting character, more or less because it could play with the idea of someone who uses the Force or is Force sensitive, who maybe was never actually a Jedi. Like Wim immediately assumed he's like, you're a Jedi, but I'm just not getting Jedi vibes from it, man. I'm getting like guy who is Force sensitive, who uses some of the Force sensitivity that he knows of to be a pirate and do pirate things, and he's kind of bad at it.
That's the vibes I'm getting too, because we know that there were other Force sensitive people around at the time that Luke was going and fighting Vader, ending the war, that kind of thing, but not necessarily as Jedi, because Jedi were long forgotten about at that point, and if people did have Force abilities, they were hiding. And so I get similar vibes that it was like maybe not necessarily a failed Jedi or former Jedi turned pirate, as much as just a guy who potentially had some Force sensitivity. But what did you think of what we've seen of his character so far, Rachel?
So this is me pretending to be him, just to make that clear for anyone who is looking asking why I have a blanket on my head, pretending to be Jude Law.
Watch us. We appreciate the podcast listeners. Shout out to you, but also check us out on YouTube so you can see Rachel's best Jude Law impression with a blanket on her head while you're smashing the like button.
He's like this. But the thing about Jude Law here is that he looks like Thor in Thor Ragnarok, where he's like walking through the crowd and he has the blanket on his head. And he's like that is what Jude Law looks like at the entire end of this episode. And as Damon pointed out, it is Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, because it's like, oh, get the thing like they do to the dog on the ride, and then they did it in the movie. But yeah, I just think Jude Law has no right to still be this hot, is kind of my hot take of this show. Like, there's no reason from the 90s on I've had to deal with this. I said, like, it's going to be really nice with, like, kids who are my age when I found out who Jude Law was watching this show. I hope they had the same reaction to Jude Law that, like, our generation had to Jude Law back then. Like, I hope that's what happens with this show. And that's what I think about that character so far. Because I don't want to say anything else since I have seen the next episode.
I mean, as a big Harrison Ford fan like yourself, you should know there's certain people that just won't ever stop being hot. Like, they're just going to age incredibly gracefully and will just always maintain the same level of hotness. And I think Jude Law might be one of those guys. Carlos says that's 100% a name that they got from one of those Key and Peele football sketches. It's certainly a choice of a name. Like, that's definitely not a name that it goes like, wow, what a cool character. I was writing about this and I went like, seriously, is this like, what part do I write when I'm talking about this guy? Do I write the whole name each time? Do I just call him Jod? Do I call him Nawood? Like, what?
At Attin. I thought I was like, one time I was like, oh, they're saying at Attin, and it's like, no, that's the name of the planet. The whole planet's name is at Attin. I was like, oh, okay.
I was trying to explain that whole thing to TJ about how I was like, I thought they were making fun of AT-ATs, like how people called AT-ATs AT-ATs the whole time, and I was like, oh my, yeah, I was like, oh my god, they're like, this whole bit is an AT-AT, like the whole show is just an entire bit just on AT-ATs or AT-ATs.
I would be fine if this entire show is John Watts being like, everybody who thinks they know Star Wars and then do these dumb things, I'm making fun of you guys.
I couldn't help but like I forgot the name, and so I was confused by what you were saying when you were texting me that, Damon. I forgot they were called AT-AT.
It was like a 5-minute back and forth.
But I was like, what do you mean? And you just like kept spelling out the letters, and I was like, this doesn't help me because I don't know what any of that means. Like, are you talking about the phone provider, AT&T? Like, what are the letters you're typing me?
You forgot those big things were called AT-ATs?
I don't think I ever knew. Like, I think that was probably just one of those things that I heard them being called that, and it just went one ear and out the other, and never actually like.
And people, as Damon pointed out, used to call them AT-ATs. You were like, no, they're AT-ATs.
I missed this entire phase. Like, this is just not. This is a part of history that I completely skipped over.
That's why when they're like, oh, we're from Attin, and everyone's looking at them like they're crazy, and I'm like, if that's the bit, I'm in on the bit.
But the actual reason is because it's a planet of lost eternal treasure. We don't know anything about this planet yet. I'm gonna essentially throw it just to Damon because there is more of the lore in episode 3, but it's essentially just increasing the mystery levels. But what do you think about Attin, the planet of lost eternal treasure that all these kids are from?
I don't think it's a planet.
What do you think it is?
I think it's a fake planet. I don't think it's real. Like, I don't think it's a real planet. I think it's man-made something.
Okay, man-made like a ship that type thing, like a space station,
like a very, very large star destroyer
with a sky that you can just fly out of from the ground.
Do you think it's like a social experiment?
Because here's the thing. At one point, when they're looking up at the sky, they're like, ooh, what are those? Those aren't stars. Like, they saw stars for the first time, and they're looking up, and they're seeing these red dots everywhere. Like, please. It's not a planet.
Well, we'll see. I guess we'll see if it's what it truly is. Carlos is with you. He says it's not a planet. But I'm excited to further explore the history because there was a couple pieces of this episode where they say a few things and I'm like, wow, I've never heard that word before. Like the great work on their planet at Attin, and then it just was kind of it was addressed in the future, so I don't want to talk about it more, but it was a part that I was in my notes watching this prior to episode 3 was like, the great work, what is that? At Attin, we've never heard of this planet in Star Wars, so that is something I'm excited to dive into more of, but maybe it's not even a planet at all. Damon, what were your favorite moments from these first 2 episodes we haven't talked about yet?
I said them all.
Well, that's not helpful. Usually I go through a ramble and I need you to help me out for a while to transition to the next one. Rachel, what were your favorite moments? Because screw this guy.
So Neel going home to his little elephant fucking family, all of his little siblings being like, Neel, loved them. I loved, I love that Wim sees these girls ride the bike to school and watches them jump, and then it's Wim's turn to do that, and he throws his bike, like he gets off of his bike, throws it over like the railing, and then gets back on the bike. Like he's like, I'm not going over this railing. I'm gonna, because I think that's also a very kid thing to do. It's like you see someone do something cool and you want to do that cool thing, but then you don't question
it. Not quite yet.
You figure it out on your own logic. Like you're like, this is the same thing. And you're like, it's far from the same thing. I hate that proctor robot. because Neel
All the droids.
Rose,
All the droids made me terrified for the future.
And Neel raised his hand, whatever. And he had a legitimate question. He was like, "What do we do if our friend is on his way?" And that little Proctor bitch robot cut him off before he finished the sentence and was like, "Shut up, your test is starting." You asked if anyone had questions, and he had a legitimate question. And I'm mad at her about it.
That was the same, like, all of the Attin droids gave me that vibe of when, like, Wim's at the bottom of the pit, and they're like, "Get out of there, come with us." He's like, "Okay." Ow. And even when
The
Wendell,
CC droids.
yeah, even when Wendell, his dad, is like, trying to chat with the droids, and they just like are like immediately cutting him off. I don't know why it gave me like spooky vibes of a future where you just can't reason, very authoritarian, my way or the highway. This is what it is, and if you step out of line, you will be vaporized. And it freaked me out a little bit. Damon, do you have any theories for the final episode, the rest of the series after the debut before we get out of here?
I think they're gonna find out what the quote unquote planet they're on really is.
Well, duh. I would hope so.
I feel as if this entire show, Damon is going to be convinced that that is not a planet. And it is going to, like, one time they'll show a whole ass planet and he's going to be like, "That's not real." And it's going to be his conspiracy theory, whether or not it is like a legitimate thing. Look at his face.
There is something related to Attin that I think Damon will be excited about next episode, as my chair breaks underneath me as I try and move. I asked for a new one for Christmas, so hopefully that'll get here soon. But we got a lot of fun. What? It's almost Christmas. I asked my wife for a new chair. That's a nice adult gift for me to ask for. But we got a lot of fun content coming up for the month of December. Speaking of the holidays, we're covering Skeleton Crew. Later this week, we will cover the 2-episode premiere of Creature Commandos. We'll be covering Creature Commandos and Skeleton Crew twice a week, every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. This show's on a Monday, but as Skeleton Crew transitions to Tuesday nights starting next week, we will be live Tuesday nights every single week after the show. Hit the like button, subscribe, and then tell your friends to come and do the same thing. Help us battle that YouTube algorithm, help us build our community and grow. And then later in the month, we have What If premiering. I was thinking, hey, let's do one show for every episode, kind of forgetting that goes through the holidays where we will be busy with our families. And so we're going to split it up into 2 to 3 episode spans. But on the 26th, we're going to have a big mega episode with Skeleton Crew, Creature Commandos, and What If, talking about all 3 of them at once. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you join us. It'll probably be a late night, but when you're tired, ready to get away from family, and you just need something to do on the 26th, that's when you come through with us, you join us, and you come through live for the mega holiday show. We got lots of stuff coming on the Comic Corner. We got lots of great stuff on agentsofandom.com right now. You can check out my Creature Commando spoiler-free review, as well as my Skeleton Crew review, and we got great stuff like Moana 2, Cobra Kai recaps and reviews, and more. So make sure you head over to agentsofandom.com. Rachel, where can the people find you on socials? And do you have any fun stuff coming?
You can follow me at my social is at Rachel Leishman on Twitter /X if you're that person. Hello, puppy. You can follow me on TikTok at Rachel_Leishman, Instagram Rachel_Leishman. You can follow my work at the Mary Sue and Collider. And you can listen to my podcast, Padro Pascal, the Powell Pod, and Cinema Sibs, which is on the Agents of Fandom network. And go check out my interviews at the Mary Sue. I did one with Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey not that long ago. I have Creature Commandos ones up. Go give me love.
Go give Rachel love on her YouTube page on the Mary Sue. Go give us some love on our YouTube page with the Agents of Fandom. And we will see you on Thursday for Creature Commandos. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. On behalf of myself, my dog, Obi-Wan, Damon, Rachel, all the Agents of Fandom, we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.